Hello guys, Joker the Fool here, back at it again with another Rippaverse review. This is of course Yaira number 3, and I got cover D by Jack Herbert, Great War Separation artist, and he's also done Alpha Core cover B as well, Alpha Core number 1, I ought to say. But that is besides the point. I'm going to get into this review of Yaira number 3, and before I say anything about the book, I am going to be talking about spoilers, so if you want a spoiler-free review from me, read the written review either on the Substack or the Twitter, but you have been warned because I really want to talk about spoilers because there's just so much that happens in Yaira number 3 that is really sweet and juicy in terms of developing not only the character of Yaira, but the Rippaverse as well. And that's a really exciting thing. So of course this book picks right off from the end of Yaira number 2, which was a great cliffhanger. We have this fight between Stefania and Yaira, and then it just gets more insane from there. Of course, you've got the Alpha Core showing up quite prominently. And Deborah's art is fantastic in this book. You've got Thiago Gomes and 137 Studios providing really solid ink work as well. So the art just really pops. And Jay Brown is the colorist. He's also the colorist on Horseman. And he does fantastic work with Yaira. And he does really good work in maintaining the style that Deborah was going for in this book. It certainly is different than his work on Horseman, so he knows how to color best to really accentuate what the artist is doing. And I'm also going to really shout out Invisible Art Studios because their lettering is fantastic. I love the monologues for different characters, like you got Yaira's there, and the lettering for the Magi is absolutely fantastic if I can find it. Of course, there aren't too many spreads, but the panel layouts are really unique. They still maintain great readability. Of course, you've got stuff like this is the closest we get to stuff like there being spreads. But of course, you've got Magus Kunzite, who is the lover of Magus Numite out for revenge against Yaira. And the Magi are the really big bombshell developments here. Of course, you've got Yashua working with one of the Magi to betray Yaira. But of course, the biggest thing is that we have the reveal of Magus Iolite, which is Yaira. So Yaira was part of the Magi, known as the Void Scarabs also as well, you know, from Magus Numite's Dokumon card. It's basically explicitly stated that Magus Numite is dead. Of course, Magus Numite could come back from the dead, and we could have him leading the Magi again. And one of the things I love about the Magi is not only with Yaira being one of them, they're going to be important to her story, but the lettering for them is always fantastic. So I love the dark lettering here. It was present in the Yaira number 1 when Magus Numite was alive. Of course, Yaira number 2 was Yaira dealing with the fallout of Magus Numite's death, along with a whole bunch of other things that happened in Yaira number 1. But we got fantastic pages like this where it's not really spreads since you have all of these panels as well, but Deborah does a really good job of giving a great layout for each page. It's very immersive to read. Jay Brown's color work is really good on this. He's also done Horseman and a bunch of other stuff for the Rippaverse, but he does a great job at maintaining this unique style for Yaira. So he's not just doing everything all the same. He knows what works for Yaira and what works for Horseman, and he definitely has a great talent in terms of coloring. So big shout out to him for doing great work on this ongoing series and everything else he's done for the Rippaverse. And of course, I think the biggest reveal is with this in Neptune. So of course, we've got the character of Magus Painite, and it's basically implied that Magus Painite is the character that was tormenting Yaira with dreams in the beginning of Yaira number 2. And it's revealed that the very end, of course, we've got this really epic fight scene where she gets Neptune's trident, and that's how she's able to destroy Magus Kunite, and that's how she's able to win the day, but not before Yashua is taken away and turned into a black sorcerer, I believe is the term, by the Magi. So you've got a lot of conflict. We get more knowledge because Yashua was basically betraying Yaira to take her back to his homeworld to stand trial for the deaths, or her killing Inessa, Yantoni, and betraying her people. And then with this reveal of Yaira being Magus Iolite, the Magi wanted to basically capital punishment right there, because that's what you get for breaking the oath of being a Magi. Very interesting stuff about Yaira. The story really focuses on that betrayal, her somehow maintaining the secret identity of Sally Rodell. You know, it's a bit of a suspension of disbelief there. You gotta, if you can accept in comics that Clark Kent takes off his glasses and people will see Superman, he puts them on and people will see Clark Kent. And I think Yaira maintaining the secret identity of Sally Rodell is definitely something you can suspend your disbelief for. But it's definitely a bit of a comic book miracle that Yaira is able to maintain her secret identity with just how much has gone on. And of course, beautiful art. Yaira's still got that beautiful feminine form. She's probably one of the best looking ladies in the Rippaverse, and Deborah does a really great job of showing off that. But there really aren't any of these really big, grandiose spreads in this book because there's just so much going on. But the Saskas do a really good job of structuring this story. It feels longer than 56 pages. I believe this is a 56-pager. And it definitely, the pacing feels better than in Yaira number 2. And it really wraps up everything that was set up in Yaira number 2. And it sets us up for a great 4th issue. So this is a fantastic story. And it does end on a bit of a cliffhanger. We do get the really epic reveal of Magus Painite being Neptune. And with Magus, I believe, Selenite, who again, she has her own epic lettering, being Cleto. So Cleto and Neptune working together all along to basically entrap Yaira and trying to kill her because she's left their, I guess, space magic cult is probably the best way to describe it. So these are some really big things. This, of course, laying the foundations for the conflicts that Yaira is going to be dealing with, but these are really big spoiler things. So the fact that Neptune is not just some Greek god, he's also got this being part of the Magi as well is a really interesting thing. And of course, it's very solidly stated that Magus Numite died. That's why Magus Kunzite was so angry with Yaira for having killed Magus Numite. And it does seem like he's not coming back, although this is comics, and unless you're Uncle Ben, you can always come back from the dead. So that is the interesting thing to see there. So we'll see if the Saskas decide to bring back Magus Numite. I think that would be a really interesting thing to see. But in the interim, there's plenty of interesting characters to have. Of course, you got Magus Payne. That's such a really cool character. And he's the one that's revealed to have been giving the dreams, at least basically implied heavily, if not directly stated, that the dreams are tormenting Yaira in the beginning of Yaira number 2, and the ones that cause her to have these hallucinations at the end of Yaira number 2 and the beginning of Yaira number 3 were all Magus Paynites doing. But we've got a whole host of Magi that are going to be going after Yaira, and she's also going to have to intend with her home planet's people wanting to come after her to give her, bring her to trial, and most likely give her a more structured execution. I imagine would be the capital punishment, whereas the Magi just want to go there, kill her in battle, and be done with it, which is a very interesting thing. So it's definitely the same result, just 2 different ways of going about it. But she's got these 2 factions going against her, and they're going to clash in with each other, as well as having the Alpha Corps and Stefania going against her as well. And we're seeing this dynamic with the Alpha Corps where Stefania wants to kill Yaira because of her perception that Yaira killed or got Carmen, Carmen, her Abuelita, killed. Basically being the last, one of the last descendants that Yaira had living was Carmen, and now it's, of course, Stefania. Stefania has her powers. That's how she got gig with the Alpha Corps. And there's this conflict that's going to happen between Brian Solari and Stefania, because it's clear that Solari and Yaira have this history that Stefania learns about in this 3rd issue, which is going to create interesting dynamics in the Alpha Corps. And then, of course, you've got the fact that Yaira wants to make amends with Stefania, and Stefania really doesn't. It does kind of seem like there's a path in this book where that could happen, but it definitely seems like if it does happen, it's going to take a couple issues for that to materialize. But regardless, this 3rd issue is an absolute slam dunk. And I've said that Yaira was my favorite book in the Rippaverse, and this really maintains that. Of course, the second issue was a little bit weaker than the first. The pacing was a bit all over the place, but there was a lot that went on in Yaira number 2. The Yaira number 3 really wraps up nicely with a bow on top. Does not end on this cliffhanger. It feels like you read 1 through 3, you get a good complete arc of a story, and it really sets you up for the 4th series and beyond. So hats off to the Sasuke sisters for really doing that fantastically. And then, of course, Deborah Krita, Jay Brown, and all the other artists involved did a fantastic job at bringing the visual aspects of the story to life, because it is a really immersive book to read. It feels a lot longer than 56 pages. And while there are some scenes where you have to make some inference because it's from Yaira's perspective, and there's a scene where she's basically incapacitated because she's getting the Wraiths, Neptune's sons, to get on her side, and she has to leave her body, have an out-of-body experience in order to do that. So there's some stuff that happens where you have to infer that it happened. If that could have been dealt with a little bit better, but that's a bit of a nitpick because you can get back on track pretty quickly. But regardless of that, this is a fantastic book. Yaira's ongoing series is really living up to the hype that was established when her character was first revealed along with Lysum, and of course the hype that the fans had with her first campaign making over $1.5 million. So a really, really solid foundation for the ongoing series of Yaira is, I would say, concluded in Yaira number 3. I'm just excited to see where the Sasukas take this character next, and not only issue 4, but all the other issues that they got planned. But that's all I have for Yaira number 3 right now, and the series of Yaira. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Joker is out.
Thank you for stopping by the Velvet Room. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you can keep up with Velvet Room Publishing, and go to velvetroompublishing.com if you want to go even deeper into the Velvet Room.